Welcome to the Deep Dive.
Emerald City Hockey's Seattle Kraken podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Deep Dive, Emerald City Hockey Seattle Kraken podcast. RJ, we are finally into September, which means at some point this month, maybe not so much this week, but at some point this month, things with the Seattle Kraken will in fact be happening.
Yes, there is going to be some hockey this month. I cannot wait. It's been a quiet August, Dylan. Of course, we've kept it going and everything with the way too early, but I'm tired of it being way too early. I want it to be the appropriate time to talk about hockey.
I thought you were going to go with, I want it to be now, but no, appropriate time to talk about hockey is very RJ answer. For
Yeah. Anyone can just say the word now.
It's true. It's true. No, that is good. And yes, we're going to have stuff. We're going to have actual hockey games, right? Like there'll be preseason games, but we're going to have actual Seattle Kraken games played this month. Cannot wait for that. Can't wait for training camp. Can't wait for rookie camp. Wish we had dates for everybody on that, but we're still being told not to disclose them. But all of that stuff's going to be happening. It's all going to be kicking off so soon too, right? Like it kind of feels like after that long August, I'm hoping that the next little bit here is going to go by pretty quick and we'll get back to everything.
Yeah, I think it will. And even before the games, before all that other stuff, on Thursday, Kraken are going to be unveiling a brand new jersey. So we're going to speculate on that a little bit. We haven't seen it. We don't know what it looks like, but I think we'll throw around some ideas a little bit later on what it's going to, what we think it might look like and what we're hoping for that jersey. Cause there was a lot of talk about that, even in the Armchair GM stream this past week, it kind of, went into jersey talk. So looking forward to that. And then of course, Dylan, the meat of this episode, actually, you have a really great interview with Spokane Chiefs GM Matt Bardsley.
Yeah, it was great to be able to catch up with Matt Bardsley. I obviously know him from back in his days being the assistant general manager of the Portland Winterhawks. That's when I was scouting for them, and he was the person that I reported to and would talk with at, the SoCal Combines, all of that kind of stuff. And so it was great after it's been a couple years for sure to be able to reach out to him. He was very generous and did a great interview. I can't wait for everybody to listen to it. And yeah, it was just great to be able to catch up with him, hear about the work that he's doing with the Chiefs, because I mean it's going gangbusters over there for them. Like this is a fantastic team that he's put together, and I know he has high hopes for this upcoming season. And then to also be able to talk about Berkeley Catton, who has been a big part of the Spokane Chiefs these last couple seasons, and then of course is going to be a big part of the Seattle Kraken in the not too distant future, I think we could probably start saying at this point. So it was great to kind of hear about Berkeley Catton and the work that he's put in over there with the Spokane Chiefs and everything from Matt. And so I can't wait for everybody to listen to that interview. But of course, before we can get to that, RJ, we have to thank our wonderful sponsor for this podcast, the law offices of Rico Tessendor. Now, RJ, we had a stream this past week for members of the Patreon over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey, where we kind of went over what everybody can expect from us coverage-wise for the upcoming season. There are going to be some changes to what our coverage looks like for the upcoming season, and we're not quite ready to totally announce everything yet here on the deep dive and everything, but we were, we wanted to get some opinions and things like that from the Patreon members. And so we had that stream earlier this week. And one thing that did not expect to come up, RJ, when we were doing that stream was how many people love Rico and love the Rico ad spots. That was something brought up by the people, and we had so many comments during that stream about how awesome it is that we have Rico sponsoring the pod. I was just really like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that was so great to see the love for Rico. I mean, we had like double-digit comments on there about Rico sponsoring the pod, some really nice ones. So it was great to just see the love from everybody for Rico, because I mean, his support is part of what allows us to do what we do and keep this podcast going, keep everything running. So really appreciate Rico. Really appreciate the love from Rico from you guys, because again, like he sees that, and that really helps us. It helps him. It helps everybody. So just want to thank you all for that.
Yeah, definitely. And while we hope none of you ever need his services, the odds say at some point someone out there will be involved in an accident, whether on the road, at work, or anywhere in between. And when you are, we hope you call Rico at 425-778-9800 or visit his website, ricotessendor.com, to schedule a free consultation. He's won millions of dollars for his clients and helped thousands of people in the greater Seattle area. And as a fellow member of the ECH community, we know he'll help you too. All right, RJ, you teased it at the beginning there. Let's talk Kraken third jersey.
Well, before
Oh,
we do
there's
that, I
before
actually
that.
had
Yeah.
one thing I wanted to talk about and announce. So just heads up, we have partnered with Ladies of the Kraken, awesome group, for women fans of the Seattle Kraken. They are doing an online silent auction that is runs from now to through the 11th of September, and it benefits Sticks and Strings, which is the Eberle's charitable foundation. And so we have put up something that you can bid on. I think it's a pretty cool experience. You and a guest can watch a game, Kraken away game with us at Queen Anne Beer Hall. Dinner's on us, of
Hmm.
course, and you can hang out with us, watch the game. We'll buy you dinner, and of course, you'll get all the personalized insights. It'll be like a nice private live commentary, like we do for the game. So it's within their Facebook group. You can go in. I think you have to be in their Facebook group to go and bid and find the link and everything. But I think they have like 7,500 members. There's lots of ladies of the Kraken.
Yeah.
So if you are a lady who likes the Kraken, go and see if you can join that Facebook group and bid, or if you're already in there, they have that, and plus a lot of other cool auction items as
Yeah.
well. They've got experiences with other people. I know like Jeff Baker has one on there. There's things like a signed Kraken jersey, lots of things you can bid on and support a good cause.
Yeah, definitely. We were very quick to jump at the opportunity to work with them. Lady of the Kraken do so many great things out in the community, and certainly to be able to help support the Abilene charity and everything like that. It was just a no brainer for us to be involved, and can't wait to watch a game with somebody.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Whoever it is, it could be you.
It could be. All right, third jersey time, RJ, because I know people have been waiting for this for a long time. The Kraken have been releasing little social media hits here and there, kind of loosely teasing things. A lot of people have a lot of ideas about what this jersey is going to look like. Figure maybe we should talk about ours.
Yeah, I think so. Now we don't know what it is going to look like. We've all just seen the teasers like you have. I think we've tried brushing up on our Morse code a little bit.
Yes.
There's never been a better time to be that one friend in the friend group who knows Morse code.
Yep.
But it's so far. I mean, they even have a companion website with it
Yeah.
that kind of teases the jersey and everything. So Dylan, I mean, from what you've seen from the teasers, they haven't given away a whole lot. Like, what do we know already? Because I think the little bit that we do know, or that's been rumored, or that's clearly out there, is that there's going to be, as Todd Lewicki said, some kind of interactive element where the fans, can be involved. And then I think it's also been reported elsewhere there's going to be some kind of light up element. That seems to be the extent of what we know.
Right. So, we'll see kind of how sophisticated that is. I mean, I remember back when we first heard that from Wiki, like the very first information we all got, I immediately went to like, yeah, if a light up jersey, maybe something that could sync to the events of the game. I don't think that that's going to happen. That's probably like too intricate and requires a lot.
Yeah.
And I know, as I've talked about it on like Discord and stuff, the idea of having like LEDs in a jersey, everybody's like, you can't wash it, right? Then that sparked a whole debate about whether or not people wash their hockey jerseys, which I don't mean to start here. But so, I think there's only a handful of avenues you can go then if you're talking about some form of light up jersey, but keeping it within the realm of practicality for a clothing option, right? And also, so that comes to mind a couple things. The first thing that came to mind for me was, though, then like a UV or black light type thing, but we were told that this will be the first jersey of its kind, and Vegas has already had one of those. So it was like, okay, I guess we can kind of scratch that off. So I again, there's not like a ton of options. I know a pretty popular theory is glow in the dark. I've seen that out there a lot, and I do think, when hockey games do this a lot, Kraken games do this a lot, they'll drop all the lights. I think that could be a cool thing to see out there. It's already cool when, everybody at the beginning of the game kind of syncs up with the app and their phone light, and it'll do like the flashes for the lightning from the intro video, stuff like that. If you could kind of time it where you kill the lights for a little bit, not while play's occurring this time, guys, but if you could kind of kill the lights a little bit and have like a sea of glowing, fans out there, I think that would be pretty cool.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, I think that's probably the direction it would be headed in. With my imagination, I can't imagine really another way you could kind of do it, in a way that would be practical and make sense. Glow in the dark just makes the most sense of any of the things. And it is a way for the fans to kind of be involved. Like if you are a fan wearing that jersey, you are kind of lighting up and
Yeah.
glowing in the dark, just like the players and everything. So that could fit the definition of everything that we've heard. But there's still a lot of ways you could incorporate the glow in the dark
Mhm.
elements, right? It could be on the crest, it could be on the shoulders, it could be, I mean, anywhere on the jersey. I don't know, where would you like to see it? Are there any areas that you think would be best?
Certainly a
And
lot of oh, go for it.
well, and then also, I guess you could. I don't know. Can they? Is there glow in the dark that's different colors? Does it have to be kind of that like neon green, yellow kind of thing that I always just associate with it, or could you have it say be red?
I think you could have it be red. I don't know that it would be as strong, right? Like I think that's partly why the default glow in the dark for a lot of stuff has always been that kind of neon green, the lemon lime Gatorade color,
Hmm.
if you will. I think that
Well,
that's
that's a
always
good
just been
omen. That's a
because
good sign.
it's kind of the strongest color, and it's something that is very it's very easy to see in the dark. I don't know, a glowing red might not just be very bright. It might not be like a super bright red, the shade of it, so maybe that's not it. But I was gonna say that seems to be a lot of what they're teasing in the marketing, right? Is the glowing red eye in the Kraken logo. And so we'll see. I think if it was just like it's got to be a semi decent portion of the jersey though. Like if you're going in this direction and you're gonna have something that's gonna glow and you're gonna kill the lights and you want it to be this effect of like all of these people, thousands of people wearing this jersey in the arena, and it has this prominent effect that's going to show up on TV, it's going to show up in the arena, and it's going to, intimidate the other team or whatever. You need to have a decent amount of the jersey. Like if it's just the eye on the crest, right? Like they go with the standard crest and it's just the eye. I don't know that that's really enough. I don't know that that's going to be like a big enough thing. I don't know that just the crest on the chest by itself is really enough either.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if the entire crest lit up really brightly or something, but
Yeah.
then it wouldn't have the effect of just like the eye coming out,
Right.
if that makes sense. And it all would be kind of the similar color. And
Hmm.
unless you could do something like a bright red that would show up, I don't know if that would make sense.
Yeah.
And so, maybe there are other options. I've heard people because again, the Armchair GM stream turned into about like 20 minutes of just jersey talk. I know some people speculate about maybe like on the shoulders or something where it's up at the top, you can kind of see it and notice it. I don't know how you'd make that look like really cool. Like it would work, it'd be visible,
Hmm.
or maybe even have like an eye thing on the shoulders. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you could do that. I think that like shoulders make sense because thinking about hockey jerseys, right? The shoulders generally are a different color anyway from a lot of the rest of the
Hmm.
jersey. Like, and at times we've seen it be different materials. So if you were to do the shoulders, I think because again, you're talking about a crowd in which people are sitting down. There's going to be obstructions and stuff there. If it's on the crest, you're not. You know what I mean? Like there's people sitting in front of you. You might be holding a drink or food or something. You know what I mean? It's going to be in the way. I think shoulders kind of make the sense to make it the most prominent for when you're, looking out at the arena and seeing the sea of people wearing the jersey and everything like that. So I think that kind of makes sense if you were to do it more than say like just the collar around or something.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, if you think of the effect, like from our vantage point up in the press box, or from anybody kind of up above, or if you're in the
Right.
upper sections, seeing all the different, and you can see kind of how many people have the jersey too, and the more people that buy it, the more of an effect you have around the arena.
Yeah.
That's something I think the team would like. But I mean, going back to the crest though, because I know
Yeah.
you wanted to talk about the crest,
Yeah.
because that's something that I know a lot of fans have talked with us about too, and with a third jersey is the potential of a different crest. I mean, the Kraken have only really had the one. They had a kind of an altered version, like a Metropolitans inspired, or I guess legally maybe not a Metropolitans inspired crest for the Winter Classic jersey. But otherwise, it's just been the normal logo that we know, the S logo.
Hmm.
This would provide an opportunity to go with something different if they wanted to.
Right, and I think that that's the beauty of a third jersey, right? Like you want some variety there. You want something a little bit different. I think back to all the third jerseys that, I liked growing up and still like, and they generally have a different logo, right? Whether it's something more vintage inspired and the history there, or going with the secondary logo, or kind of designing something new for it. I just think that should be the direction that they go. It's I don't I really still, after 4 or 5 years now of the Kraken S logo, I still think it's one of the best logos in hockey, but I'm ready to see something else on a jersey, right? Like, I think it's a great logo. I definitely don't think they need to be rebranding or doing anything around it. But when it comes to just seeing jerseys, I'm ready to have a little bit more variety there. And I think a lot of fans are as well. And so it'll be interesting to see if they do something like that. E- I don't know, because of how prominent that S logo has been in all of the marketing, that it's going to be something different, and especially if they are going for something like a glow in the dark, or light up, whatever, however that's going to work, right? Something with the lights. I think that the S logo maybe makes a little bit more sense than, say, the Anchor logo, just because you have all the lines that go through it too, so it just provides more ability to have that effect, right? If you go with an Anchor logo and it is something light up, you kind of just have the outline of the anchor, and is that enough, right? And so it'll be interesting to see, but I do kind of think that for third jerseys, this is the time to break away from the logo that's all over the arena, that's at center ice, that's on all the jerseys all the time, that's, you know what I mean, that's prominent on the broadcast, all of that kind of stuff. I think it's cool when you can bring something a little bit different in there and break up the monotony for 8 to 10 games a season.
Right, and I think there's so much potential too if you wanted to go with something else, whether it's, the anchor or something that maybe incorporates the anchor. I really liked
Yeah.
an idea that Maddie brought up to us, and I believe she posted on the Discord, and it also in the Armchair GM stream is kind of where it started, was it was incorporating the anchor into like a compass
Hmm.
type design. Um, and I mean, without making it look too much like a Mariners logo, but still having like an anchor into a compass and everything, and maybe it could point northwest, or you could even have the arrow of the compass pointing northwest and lighting up. Perhaps that
Right.
could be another interesting element to it. So I would like something creative like that. Also, I mean, Dylan, you know this. I've seen some concept logos
Yeah.
from when the Kraken originally were planning out what their logo was going to be, and so they had a bunch of different concepts on a big board that we saw, I think, around the time of the Winter Classic. And I can't share those, but some of those looked really cool,
Yeah.
and I would like if they were to bring out something like that, or throw a little something different. And also, just from a business standpoint, you throw a new logo on there, right? That's a whole bunch more merch you can sell. I think, fans would get super into it if it looked really good. So for a number of reasons, I would like to see something different there on the crest.
Yeah, for sure. And yes, not to sound too like cynical business, side of things. If it's the same logo, right? Like, then the light up feature better be something pretty good if everybody's gonna, want to go and shell out what minimum 150, 200 probably for a blank
I think
jersey.
yeah, I think that's on the cheaper end now. I think it's
Yeah,
even more than that.
it's probably more than that. And then certainly if players want, if people want to get a player jersey, again, you start like getting close to 300 bucks, over 300 bucks, depending on the level of jersey and everything. Would it sell as well if it's still just the S logo? I don't know.
Yeah, I think if they nail every other aspect of it, then it can work. But you better get the light up stuff right, and it better have a cool look to it. And I mean, Dylan, do you have any concerns about, because I don't remember where you stand on this, because I am look, I think there are enough just kind of boring black jerseys in the NHL. Every team just does a black third jersey with whatever their color is, and it's been done. It's not creative. It's not interesting.
Hmm.
And I'm worried the Kraken are going to kind of go that route. Yeah, there might be a light up element to it, but it'll just be because, especially with all the talk of the abyss,
Yes.
right? And I know if you're going to have a light up jersey that you kind of want a darker background to it, but if you just go like mostly black jersey and then a little light up element somewhere, I don't know, it just still seems boring to me.
It would be a little boring. I think, sticking with the dark blue, I think is okay, because like, it's a little bit different, but it should still be dark enough that you could have some sort of light up feature. But yeah, it's not, a lot of people want like an ice blue jersey. I don't think, if you're doing a light up jersey that you can do that, right? Like
No, I'm with you on that.
whatever
Yeah.
light up element, I just don't think it would then have the effect, and so I don't think we're seeing that yet. I
It'd
think
be
at
cool
some
if it was
point in the
possible to
future.
have a light up element be that ice blue color.
Well, that's the thing. I gotta think that that's possible, right? I mean, we got glow sticks and stuff that are that way. Like, I would think that that's doable. So that's kind of like low key what I'm hoping for. I know, again, at sometimes it seems like red, and I know that this is something that a lot of people have talked about as well, which is the idea of kind of like a blackout jersey, and then the light up is the red. And we, talked about this earlier, and I just think, yes, if you're going black and red, that it could be cool, and especially with the Kraken eye being red and everything, but also we've seen that from what, 20 of the 32 NHL teams at some point or another,
I mean,
right?
look at the Eastern Conference. Like,
It's
almost 2/3 plus of the teams have like a black and red jersey somewhere.
right. So it would be a little bit disappointing as somebody who's kind of been around for a while to see something like that, around hockey for a while to see something like that. I think one of the cool things about the Kraken is that they have a logo, they have general mythos around it that is so different and stands so apart from so many other teams in the league. And so I would like them to really lean into that side of things. But we'll kind of see. I mean, it's a very popular thing among sports to do the like blacked out logo thing, and it must sell because everybody keeps doing it.
No, it definitely does sell, and there's a lot of fans that like it, and I mean that's why it is so common. But with that, it becomes common. It I think becomes a little bit boring, and
Yeah.
it's something that's been done so much. And the Kraken have a lot of ground, a lot of potential to do something different and to make something that's interesting and unique in its own way. And I think they will.
Mhm.
I'm a little worried that they won't, but I think they will.
Yeah, no, I think they will too, and I guess the big thing really, and we can kind of probably close on this, is just I don't want it to just look like that Stars third jersey, right? But like just
Yeah.
like a slightly upgraded version because ours, glows or lights up, right? When that Stars one already feels like it glows.
I
It
was gonna
already
say,
looks
I feel like, wait, doesn't it
radioactive.
already? No, it doesn't. It's
It
just a
doesn't technically, but it kind of has that effect anyway, just because of how intense that green is that they chose for it. But that's the one thing that I kind of want to avoid is I'm worried that if it is just kind of a blacked out logo type situation and you have like a glowing red eye and then the rest is just piping in the ice blue, I worry that it's just going to look like the Stars third jersey.
yeah. And I think the thing is, I like that Stars third jersey
I do too.
just because yeah, because it has that interesting element and it works so well with the radioactive
It
green.
does.
But if the Kraken do something basically just like that, yeah, it doesn't work the second time,
No.
I think.
No, I don't
And
think it
without
does
that
either.
radioactive green, something about that particular color just works with
It
that
does.
concept. I don't think any other color would work.
Yeah, I think the ice blue could work, but again, I feel like the ice blue would work if you did a dark blue, right? Kind of similar to how it works now on their dark blue home jerseys. Like,
Right.
I think if you just kind of like upped the intensity on all of that, I think it would be good. But yeah, and I know that those jerseys are controversial for a lot of people. Those Dallas Stars jerseys, like it's one where you're either all in or you don't like it at all, and
Yeah.
I
And
I
that's fair.
don't.
I get that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know that the Kraken would want to go for something like that though.
Yeah. No, I don't. Yeah, they probably don't want something too
First
controversial, I
first third
guess, like
jersey
love
in
it or hate it.
franchise history, like, yeah, do you want it to be like this all or nothing choice kind of thing? I don't know. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. Only got a couple
Yeah.
days to wait for it.
Yeah, that's true. Only a couple days, comes out on Thursday. And I mean, what's most important though is that they get at least one win in the jersey, unlike
My
the reverse
gosh.
retros.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Make it that should be number one on the list. We can't believe we've skipped over it this long. Make it not cursed, guys. Come on.
Yes. Yes.
What were you doing making the reverse retro one cursed?
Yeah, I don't care what you got to do, right? Set it up, determine on the schedule. Just circle all those games against the Blackhawks, circle all those games against the Sharks, circle all those games against all those teams. Pittsburgh, right? Like we better be wearing these when Pittsburgh comes into the barn, right? And yeah, and you try to get the win that way. That is definitely something important. Do we know? I don't know if we know. Obviously, they're going to be unveiled on the 4th. Do we know if they go on sale on the 4th? Like what availability is going to be for
I've been
these?
asked that question. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it would be smart of them to have availability right away once they unveil them, because I think there's going to be a lot of people that see it and want to buy it right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
You
I
should
would
probably
I would think
maybe
that
do
you could
that.
at the very least pre-order it. I'm just wondering like
Or yeah, to
is
pre-order.
this
Oh, so
yeah,
I get it. Like, could you get it right then? Okay, maybe
right,
not, but you
right. Are
could
they
at least
gonna
order it immediately.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to be available for the start of the season or if this is going to be something that will kick in. I mean, you better have it in ready for like Black Friday holiday sales times. I would think that that's something that the organization would very
Oh yeah.
much want and
No,
be on
they know
top
what
of.
they're doing. There's no way
Uh,
they would not have it
but
there.
I'm curious to see if like, day one of jersey sales is opening day or something like that. That could be interesting. So
Yeah, no, that would be interesting. I guess. Well,
interested in that
I'll
side of
be
things.
in the next couple days. I'm gonna snoop around KCI and see if I can find anything around the store. I
Yeah.
should announce my plan to do that on the podcast, though. I want to
Yes.
see if they're careless and leave something out.
Yes. All right. So, real quick before we get to the interview with Matt Bardsley, just because it's kind of on topic, Corey Pronman of the Athletic kind of released all of their NHL pipeline rankings. So this is everybody in an NHL organization, all their players that are under 23 years of age, and that includes NHL players, right? Players who have been playing in the NHL for years. Count for this. It's just all players within the organization under the age of 23. Last year, the Kraken held down the number 9 spot on the list, which, top 10 again, 4 years into existence to be able to build up a pipeline like that is very impressive. This year, RJ, Kraken moving all the way up to 6 in the NHL. What are your thoughts on that?
I think I went into it in the Armchair GM stream in detail. I think it shows some of the impressive drafting that the Kraken have done since they've come into the league. I think it's important to know also what a top 10 pipeline ranking means
Yes.
and what it doesn't, because Pronman has done this back to I think like 2021, and I went through and looked at the earliest ones that he did and saw how those teams ended up turning out. Right, what did a good pipeline mean? And for so many of them, it was very dependent on the guys at the top,
Mhm.
because you'd have the guys that were, I think there was the top 5 picks, the top 10 picks, and then everybody else. And for pretty much every team at the top, it all depended, did those top 5 picks, and to a lesser extent top 10 picks, turn out to be star players? And if they did, then that team did really well and they're set and it's great. And if they didn't, then that team tended to falter. And beyond those top 10 picks, there were a lot of players that just didn't really turn into anything at the NHL level. I think you look at, for the Kraken's list, they had, I mean, I'll just, you have Matty Beniers, Berkeley Cat and Shane Wright and Jake O'Brien. And those are kind of your top four, as I think we all realize, right? Because those are the top 10 picks they have. It's all going to be dependent on what those guys end up being. And beyond that, you're probably going to get 2 or 3 really useful NHLers, but you're probably not getting a star out of anywhere near the rest of that group. And so what do I think of it? I think it's really just going to depend on those top four. And, I know maybe take issue with the order of those top four, but it's really just going to depend on how those top four turn out.
It will largely depend on how those top 4 turn out just because of how important those picks are for any franchise, right? You're picking top 5, you're picking top 10. You need those players to turn into something in order for you to not be picking top 5, top 10 in the future, right? Like it's very hard to escape that, as the Kraken know. It's hard to escape being down there at the bottom of the league and turn into a borderline playoff team if none of those players kind of show up for you. And so I do think that it should be weighted that high. When I think of prospect rankings and looking at an organization and rating organizations, I put a lot of weight onto how many players can they find that actually turn into NHL players. Because, like, at the end of the day, for any prospect to be drafted and then developed into somebody that could play 100, 200, 400, 600 NHL games, every time you go up 100 games, that number just drops, right? Significantly to the point where if you get to like 200, I think it drops below 25%. For just a drafted player to play 200 NHL games, you're talking about less than 1 in 4 of them. And so I always tend to weight it a little bit towards like, or how many prospects within this organization are going to actually play a significant number of NHL games. And I would describe that as about 200, right? Because then you're talking about that player probably playing in part for like 3 to 4 seasons worth of games for a team. That's a healthy, decent career for a lot of guys. And I think that's where the Kraken really excel is the fact that I look at this, top 11 list of players that he has for the Kraken, and I see, at least 8 names that should play at least 200 games in the National Hockey League. That's pretty good. That's, a lot more than a lot of organizations I think could really say. And that's not even counting like goalies, right? And the fact that I think the Kraken have a couple goalie prospects that could get in there and play a significant number of games there. I kind of view them separately. And so I think that that's a really impressive thing of what the Kraken have done. But yes, at the top, I think obviously Matty Beniers, Shane Wright, we know who they are. The top four that Promen has is Matty Beniers number one, Berkeley Cat number two, Shane Wright three, and Jake O'Brien four. It's hard when you include the NHLers because like somebody like Matty Beniers, multiple NHL seasons under his belt, we know what he is, right? He's an extremely good defensive player. He has limited NHL offensive upside, right? Like I don't think we're gonna get a point per game season out of Matty, right? Like that just doesn't seem like who he's gonna be able to be at the NHL level. We're getting close to like, you know, worry time with Shane Wright as far as like kind of what he can do at the NHL level. I don't know. I've in my personal rankings, again, I don't really have the NHL guys, but I have Jake O'Brien above a Berkeley Catton. We'll kind of see again. Prominent views all of them as top of the lineup players. It's just he has the bubble NHL All Star tag for Matty and for Catton, and Matty obviously has been an All Star or was selected to an All Star game, wasn't able to go, but has already been there. I don't know. It's one where I think if you're looking at the depth of the organization, sixth in the NHL makes a lot of sense. I think there are some questions with that top group though of, again, is there a point per game player in that group? That's like I feel like if you're going to be a top 6, NHL team, pipeline wise, I feel like the answer should be yes. And I think one of Cat and O'Brien could turn into that, but we're several years away from it.
Right. It still really remains to be seen. And so that's where maybe I might have them ranked slightly lower. Just like, I mean, the team right below 'em, the Philadelphia Flyers. I think the Kraken certainly have better prospect depth than them.
Easy. Yeah, all day.
It's not even close. But, the Flyers have Matvei Michkov and Porter Martone as their top two. And I think I take those top two with whatever else you have below it above greater depth and maybe more guys that have a chance to be, good top 6 or middle 6 NHLers.
Right, because you could find those guys. Those guys, you know what I mean? Like we see it every year. Those are
Yeah.
those are the pieces that you can get at the
Kraken have
NHL
found those
level.
guys.
Right.
I mean, they traded for Oliver Bjorkstrand for not much at all.
Right. No, you can easily trade for those guys at the NHL level. You can sign them to reasonable free agency deals too if you're smart about it. Like it is easy to find those guys. So we'll see how everything plays out. Again, I am super bullish on Catton and especially Jake O'Brien. I think O'Brien's going to have a huge year in the OHL this season. I'm really intrigued to see Berkeley Catton once rookie camp and training camp comes around and through the preseason. And then, we'll probably see him in the regular season too. But it is one where, the Kraken, I feel like both prospect pool wise and just in the NHL, they're waiting for that true offensive player to kind of step up and announce themselves. And I think we're still kind of waiting on that here 5 years into the Kraken. All right, not to be total downers on everything.
Well, I mean, one guy it could be is Berkeley Cat.
It is, yes.
And we could see it very soon.
Right. No, that's the thing is like we could easily see this year. It wouldn't surprise me if a guy like Berkeley Cat, especially if he's starting on the wing, he doesn't have the pressures of being a centerman. It's easier to get more ice time on this team specifically if you're playing on the wing than if you are down the middle, something Shane Wright knows pretty well. I do think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities for a guy like Berkeley Catton to parlay all the great work that he's done in junior into the NHL sooner rather than later because of that. And I certainly know that a lot of people in the Kraken organization feel that way. And his general manager with the Spokane Chiefs, I was going to say former general manager, but could still be general manager of the Spokane Chiefs. Matt Bardsley feels that way as well. We'll go ahead and transition over into the interview with him. Again, big thanks to Matt Bardsley for taking the time to do the interview and to be so generous with his answers, talking about his history and getting into the sport and all of the great teams he's helped put together. And then, of course, Berkeley Catton at the end. Really great interview, and I'm really looking forward to everybody listening. Hey everybody, Dylan here, and I'm joined with a very special guest, General Manager of the Spokane Chiefs, Matt Bardsley. Matt, thank you for taking the time for doing this interview.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan. Appreciate it, and yeah, look forward to catching up with you as well.
Yeah, no, it's been great to see you again. I think it's been about 10 years since we last were able to kind of speak face to face like this. So it's nice to be able to catch up.
Yeah, it is for sure. It's as we know, the hockey world's pretty small. So when I got the note from you, it was nice to hear from you, and yeah, it's great. I'm excited to hear what you're doing as well.
Yeah. So I'm very excited to talk about the work that you've been doing with the Spokane Chiefs because this past year was phenomenal for you guys, winning the Western Conference, that incredible playoff run you were able to go on, and just that overall team that you've assembled. But I think first we'll give people a little bit of background on who you are and kind of how you got here. You've really been a part of some of the top teams in the WHL for the last 15 years or so. Portland in the early 2010s and that incredible run they had. Cam Loops as general manager with the Blazers there. Some very good teams that unfortunately we didn't get to see some playoff runs from because of COVID. And then now, of course, with the Chiefs, where, like I said, you just won the Western Conference Championship. I'm sure people would love to know kind of how you got started and then, of course, how you joined the Chiefs organization as general manager.
Yeah, well, it's been a long journey, that's for sure. I'm originally from San Jose, California. Growing up there, the Sharks weren't even there yet, so hockey wasn't much going on in San Jose at the time. But how I got involved a little bit, I guess, more of the interest of hockey was I would visit my father in Portland during the Christmas breaks when I was living in San Jose. And so my dad would take me to winter hockey games. So that was kind of my first introduction into hockey. And that would have been in the mid 80s. And then down in California, down in the States anyways, that's when ESPN first started picking up the NHL. And so I became more of a fan just knowing some of the players that have come through Portland. I eventually moved to Portland in the summer of 1987, finished high school my junior, senior year, lived with my dad in Portland. And then eventually, when I got involved, it was starting as a job of driving the Zamboni. So right from the grassroots, eventually got a little bit into coaching, stuff like that. But as far as playing, I didn't have any playing experience, but became a student of the game and eventually got involved. And one thing led to another, and eventually started coaching travel teams. And one of the players that we had eventually played for the Winterhawks. That was in 1999. And then from there, they had asked if I'd have interest in scouting. They knew that I did a lot of travel in the States because of the team that we coached, and we traveled a lot. So I felt I hit the lottery, and that's something that I wanted to do. And so, yeah, my first experience in the Western Hockey League was in 1999 with the Portland Winterhawks, and had a great 19 years in Portland. Eventually worked my way up, had some really good mentors in Portland, and went from just a scout to director of player personnel, director of hockey operations, and eventually assistant general manager. Again, got to work with some great people like Ken Hodge and Mike Johnston, Travis Green, Jamie Compon, Kyle Gustafson. Gord Loisel was the person that gave me one of my first opportunities. So I was real fortunate to be surrounded by some really good hockey people, and gave me the time anyways, because it was a little bit daunting at first when you don't really have that background, that playing experience, you're not sure. But certainly gave me a lot of confidence being around those people. They gave me a lot of ownership in my roles, and eventually, worked my way up. And then eventually, I think it was 2018 is when I had an opportunity to interview with Kamloops for their general manager position. So we did that, and I was fortunate to get that position. And at the time I was married, we had a daughter, a young daughter, and then we moved to Kamloops, and we wound up having a son who was born in Kamloops. So we spent 3 great years there, had really good teams, really loved the city. And then, as you mentioned, COVID hit and changed everybody's world and life, so to speak. And so we made a tough decision to, with everything, with the border restrictions and having a very young family, it was hard to get back down in the States. So we made a decision to move back to Portland, and it was hard to leave Kamloops. We really loved it. And when we went to Portland, once again, it was real fortunate. I got a call from the Philadelphia Flyers. They were looking for somebody to scout in the West as an amateur scout. So during COVID, that wasn't sure what was going to happen with the job. So I was real fortunate to get that experience, and spent a year with Philly, and it was incredible. Certainly it's the NHL, but the organization Philadelphia is tremendous, tremendous people. And then from there, I got a call from Spokane, and they were looking to fill a general manager position. And so it was hard to leave Philly, but it's something that I really enjoy, the general manager position, knowing that we could stay in the States. It was still kind of coming out of COVID, so to speak. So we moved to Spokane, accepted the position, and been here since 2022, and absolutely love the city. Great organization from ownership on down. The culture here is amazing. And so that's a little bit of a, I guess, a long-winded breakdown of my journey so far. And yeah, I've been very, very fortunate to be involved with this.
Yeah, no, I love hearing that story. Love another California boy making it in the world of hockey as well. That obviously means a lot to me and us here at Emerald City Hockey. So yeah, no, I love hearing that story from you, and also another person that doesn't have, the high level playing experience, being able to get a job, rise through the ranks, and be in a position such as yourself, I think is also something that I know a lot of people that want to break into the sport, they always have that question, right? Not everybody can be an NHL player. Not everybody's a major junior, player. They want to know, can I still do this? And you're a great example of somebody who didn't have that experience, but was still able to learn the game, be respected by these people, and ultimately end up in a position that I know a lot of people would love to be in. And you're doing a great job there in Spokane. So far, your tenure with the Chiefs is marked with some big trade deadline acquisitions. First, Shea Van Ohm in 24, and then this past year with Andrew Crystal. What is that process like for you and your team when you're kind of going into a trade deadline, when you're looking to really add a big significant piece to your rosters? Is it a lot of conversations with your staff? Do you remember, and you've been thinking about these players maybe back to their draft? Just kind of, how does a big trade deadline deal come together for you and the Chiefs?
Yeah, I think, one, it's obviously identifying a need where you're at with your team. Certainly when it comes to certain players, players that you're familiar with, going all the way back to even their draft year when, it used to be the Bantam age, but now it's U15. So even though a lot can change, but you're still familiar, you kind of have a little bit of a library, a book on that player in their draft year when they finally came into the league, see how they're developing. I think it has to be the right fit for your team, the right personality, everything like that. There's a lot involved. And you're right. You have to lean on your staff, the other staff members, scouts, people that are connected, people in the hockey world that maybe, don't know the player like they worked with them, but are familiar with the player. Try to do use all your references to do research on the player on and off the ice. So there's a little bit involved there. And then once you decide that's a player maybe you want to acquire, it's trying to make that deal work. And the challenging part too is a lot of times it's a player that has to go back the other way, and those are tough because there's the human side of it where you get to know the player, you get to know the families. It's a big part of it. I certainly don't like having to move players, but that's the reality of the business and what happens. And the one thing I've always believed in, if you're going to make a trade, you always try to make sure that the player that's leaving your organization is also going into a good organization. Want to make sure you're doing the right thing by those players as well. Usually now draft picks are pretty important. So, we've been firm believers of trying to acquire draft picks if we can. We use those. It gives you a lot of flexibility, whether you're using the pick for a player or using that to select a player or using that to acquire a player. So, I learned a lot through my time in Portland. Kind of how to build teams. I try to replicate that to a point, add a little bit of my philosophy to it as well. And we did that in Kamloops and now in Spokane as well. So, it was interesting because Shea Van Ohm was in Kamloops, my former team there. And so I was able to get a lot of information from the people that are still there when we were going through that process, and Shea was a little bit of a late bloomer, but, he was actually going all the way back to his time in Edmonton, who our current head coach, Brad Lauer, had coached Shea in Edmonton. And then, he was part of a Memorial Cup team there in Edmonton. And then he goes to Kamloops and is part of a Memorial Cup team there. So where we were the year before with their team, to add someone like Shea that we knew would be with us coming in at 19, have some really good value, real valuable experience on championship teams, played on teams that there was a lot of pros, eventually became pros. So we had that part of that culture, so to speak. So we knew that he would come in halfway through as a 19-year-old, and then we'd have a full year as a 20-year-old with us. And I'd be lying to say that, if I said I knew that he was going to score 49 goals in his 20-year-old season and lead the league in goals, but we knew he had the ability. Like, again, we saw the development throughout his career in the Western Hockey League. So he was certainly trending the right way. And I think it was great for him because coming in, it's funny, he comes into the league with Brad Lauer, and then his final year in the league was going to be with Brad Lauer. So there's a little bit of familiarity for Shea and with Brad as well. So that was kind of the component there with Shea, and then with Andrew Crystal, he's a very dynamic player, and he came into the league when I was in Kamloops, so we got to see him quite a bit with the Kelowna Kamloops rivalry. Real special player, special talent, and so when Kelowna was announced that they were going to host the Memorial Cup, they had made the decision that they probably had to, make a move with Andrew since he wasn't going to be returning as a 20-year-old. He's going to be turning pro. So we felt the type of player that he is, and with the team that we had, he was a player that got quite aggressive with Kelowna to try to make that trade, because I'm sure there were a lot of teams that were feeling the same way. So Andrew, like I said, he's a special player, had a good season for us. I think, again, with someone like Brad, also Brad being a pro coach, having that, he's really good having that understanding the junior age group, because, it wasn't that long ago that he was in Edmonton for 4 years. So he understands the junior age group, the development side, but also having 9 years of NHL coaching experience, for a player like Andrew. I think, Brad was able to work with him a little bit on, everybody knows what he can do offensively, but everything away from the puck, the importance of all that stuff. And so Andrew was a real good player for us and had a great playoffs, scored 21 goals in 20 games. So, he certainly made an impact. But again, on a trade like that was, we had to give up a really good young player in Hayden Papanicus, where I really struggled to make that trade. But to get someone like Andrew, we knew we had to give up a quality player, and then again some high draft picks as well. So that's kind of how those two trades happen. So.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And you mentioned in there your philosophy when it comes to building out a roster. Can you elaborate on that, or is that top secret and kept in the vault?
As far as building our rosters, you certainly want players that can skate, skill. The one thing we put a lot of emphasis on is hockey sense. We want really highly intelligent players. You have to compete. But I think now with all the training, there's, a lot of players can skate. They have good skill. But hockey sense, that's a bit of a skill set that, I think if you're driven, you're a student of the game, you can certainly work on that. But it's funny, when you look around in general, you have skating coaches, strength coaches, mental performance coaches, skill coaches, but there's not really a hockey sense coach. I think that's kind of ingrained in the player. I think if they're coachable, you can learn a lot. I think as you just get older through the league, you go through the league, you understand the league. I don't know if it slows down for you, but you're, it's just as the player develops. But hockey sense is a big a skill set that we look for in a player, that we try to identify, because I think it can make up for a lot. You don't have to be the fastest player, the strongest player, the most skilled player, but if you're one of the smartest players and you can think around the ice and you can anticipate or you can adapt to certain situations quickly, those players are very, very valuable. So that's kind of how we do build our teams. We also have a philosophy that we don't want to be thin in an age group or in a position. So right behind me in the board there, when I open up the board, there's a 3-year depth chart. So we have this year's team, the following year, and then the year after. And every day I'm looking at that board, just seeing where we're at. And, it's easy to get focused on the current season and you make trades, whatever you do for that year. And then all of a sudden, when the dust settles, you realize, oh, we're a little bit thin in this gauge group going forward. So we try to make sure that we're consistent. We usually like to have, this year we had 6 16-year-olds, which is not very common. And usually, again, philosophy, probably 3. If you have 3 16-year-olds and 3 20-year-olds, and then in the middle, we try to have a good balance of 17, 18, 19-year-olds. And I think, if we try to stay focused on that, then we should be consistent going through year in and year out. We're not top heavy. You're not an older team. And then all of a sudden we need to just force players in just because we need to fill rosters. So that's a little bit of our philosophy, how we try to build our teams.
It sounds very similar to back in the Portland days, right? Hockey sense kind of being that thing that everybody's looking for. And I know I still talk about it when looking at prospects, whether prospects for the NHL, prospects for major junior. It is just that one thing that some guys seem to have it and other guys don't. And the ones that do seem to find a way, right? Even if they're maybe not the biggest guys out there, they're not the fastest guys out there. If they know where to be and when to be there, they sure seem to find success out there no matter what.
I agree with you 100%. And you're right. From the Portland days, it's something that I kind of learned, and it's one thing when you see it, but it's another thing when you have success with it. So then you believe it. And again, it's in teams have different philosophies, and we're not saying that ours is the right one, but it's the one that we believe in and the one that we're focused on. And our staff's done a great job. Our scouting staff, they understand the template that we want in a player. Now, at the same time, you can't have the same type of players. You have to have a bit of a blend. But at the same time, I still believe that no matter what, hockey sense is very, very important. Again, you don't have to be the fastest guy, the most skilled guy, but if you can think the game, then you're giving yourself a chance to have success.
Yeah, and the philosophy seems to be serving you well here, and we'll definitely talk about a player that seems to have a lot of hockey sense in just a little bit, Berkeley Catton. But first, I want to ask you, kind of broadening out away from Spokane to the CHL as a whole. It's been a big shakeup with the recent CHL NCAA agreement, allowing players to keep their NCAA eligibility if they go the major junior route. And this offseason, we've seen some big fish leave major junior ranks to go the NCAA route. How has this changed things for you as a general manager now that there's this new wrinkle kind of thrown into the mix?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we're all learning this, right? Like you said, it's this whole new landscape. And when the announcement came last November, we weren't sure what to expect. I think there was a bit of a thought that, well, schools are probably just going to want the older players, probably the 20-year-olds, maybe the odd 19-year-olds. But at the end of the day, I know the NCAA programs, they want the best player. We all want the best players. And so it's something that we're trying to embrace. And, I think you have to build relationships. You're trying to build trust with that, especially with the NCAA programs. Because even, I think if you ask them, this is new to them as well, because it's a whole new pool of players that they can access as well. And that's the one thing that we found is during the year when the schools were coming out to our games, they're just trying to learn the landscape themselves and the players. But the good thing was when they came out, like especially in our particular situation with Spokane, a lot of them just said, We didn't realize the quality of the league or the facilities or the resources, the coaching, stuff like that. So I know schools are pretty excited about the opportunity to get players from the CHL because for them at the school, they probably feel that they're getting a player that's going to be that further ahead going into the NCAA, whenever that is. Our job, our focus is still, we're trying to prepare players for the NHL, and I think our league does a tremendous job. Really good organizations in the Western Hockey League and in the CHL, tremendous coaches, training, all the resources. So again, our job is to get our players ready for the NHL, get ready for pro. And if they're not quite ready and they have to go into the NCAA for a year or two, then I believe that those players are going to be more than ready to be able to jump to that level as well. So I think in the end, it's great for the players. But I think even for the players in our league and the CHL, this is all new to them as well, because the last time they were really recruited was in their draft year, and stuff like that. But now to have this opportunity as early as 17 and 18 and probably more so at 19 and definitely at 20, this is kind of new to them as well. So again, we're all learning as we're going. It seems like I don't know if it changes every day, but there was a little bit of that shotgun start in November where, who's going to commit first and stuff like that. So again, we're trying to learn, trying to build relationships with coaches from the NCAA, and they're trying to do the same thing with us. And again, but the one challenge is everybody wants the same player. So we understand that as well.
Yeah. Is the WHL now an easier sell to American parents now that this exists? Because I remember, back at being at WHL combines and stuff, right? And you talk about the fact that you're not going to have that NCAA eligibility, or a parent will ask that question and it's not there. And you can tell that, most American parents, or at least in places like California, some of the more southern states, they're not used to that concept of having an athlete for a child, and then they go the college route, right? They play high school and then they go college. That's the pipeline that we're used to in the States, and that just wasn't really the thing with major junior and how things worked in hockey. Now that you can kind of maybe sell the WHL as, look, this isn't just a road to the NHL, but also a potential road to a good college opportunity. You can come here as a teenager, work, and then, 19, 20 years old, you'll still have that option of going the college route. Has that made things easier when talking to, parents of USA-born players?
Yeah, I don't know if it's easier. I think the one thing we've certainly noticed is the door is open now for those conversations. Before, it was a little bit challenging where you'd have conversations, but having to make almost a life decision at age 15 or 16, especially for the American players, that was tough. They were always good about having the conversation, but I felt they were always a bit guarded. And I can appreciate that. I understand that. I think now having the conversations, that's the easy part. Like we'll do that. We still have to educate them on why they should come to the league or come to our team in particular, because there still is the option of whether it's the USHL, the BCHL, Alberta Junior League, wherever it's going to be, there still are other options. So we still have to do our job in trying to explain why we feel that our option is the best path. But to answer your question, I don't know if it's so much easier, but there's a lot more willingness to really look at it, to say, okay, this really is a realistic opportunity and we need to do it. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, even last year, when the announcement was made and it was opened up, we were starting to see players leave whichever league they were in to come to the CHL. And now we're starting to see more and more of it as well. So, again, I don't know. I can't speak for other clubs if it was that easy, but to know that they can still try to achieve their ultimate goal without sacrificing if there's a college opportunity or not. I think just people are a little more aware now, but we still have to educate them on it for sure.
Yeah, no, that's makes a lot of sense. We'll get to Berkeley Cat in a moment, but there is one thing that I wanted to ask you. Going back to earlier, you talked about you were able to join with the Philadelphia Flyers and be a scout in the West for them. And I do have a question for you on that. Is there a lot of difference between scouting for an NHL club versus a CHL club, as far as, you're going to be looking at 17, 18-year-olds instead of 14, 15-year-olds? Or is scouting at the end of the day just scouting, kind of regardless of what age group you're looking at?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of there's similarities for sure. When you're scouting, I mean, at the end of the day, you're evaluating. But again, an organization might have a little bit different philosophy, and I thought it was really good for me. I mean, I feel that I'm a better general manager because of my experience, even if it was just 1 year with Philadelphia, because I learned so much from their organization, from their scouts, from their assistant GM, their general managers, everything like that. But when you're out there in the rinks, I mean, the one thing that's a lot different is outside of going to a tournament, you're basically attending one game a day, where at our level, a lot of times we're at showcases or tournaments where, you might be watching 12 games a day. So it's a little bit different that way. For me, that was probably the biggest adjustment, was just almost the lifestyle of it, where you travel into a city, you're kind of waiting for the day to go by for that game that night. And then after the game, you go back to the hotel, try to do my reports, and then I'm off to the next city, where, again, at our level here in the Western League and the CHL, you go to a city and on a Thursday, and that evening you're watching games, and then watching games all day Friday, all day Saturday, and then traveling home Sunday. So that was probably the biggest difference. As far as the scouting part goes, I don't know if it was too much different. I found a lot of same similarities in how things were organized. Even your draft meetings and stuff like that were somewhat similar. Certainly at the NHL level, you're watching the elite of the elite for their draft year. So, I mean, that was kind of exciting for me. Like, every game I was going to, you're watching Western League games, or sometimes I go out to the USHL for a tournament, or the OHL for some games. But you're always watching top players in their draft year. And then, so I don't know if there was too much difference. It's just at a whole nother level, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Berkeley Catton.
Yeah.
Kraken fans are really looking forward to seeing him at training camp here in about another month or so, preseason, and perhaps even longer if he's able to make the Kraken team. What stands out about his game for you, and how have you seen it grow over the last couple seasons?
Yeah, I think for Berkeley, I mean, again, we talked about it before, his hockey sense for me is off the charts. He's an elite thinker of the game. He's one of those players that when he's playing at a high pace, you almost see him, like the game almost slows down for him, so to speak. His skating, he's got great edge work. He's a bit of an explosive skater. He's elusive on the ice. Passing abilities are really, really strong. I think actually probably a shot is underrated, because I think people kind of, when they view him, they see him as a playmaker, which he is, but he can score goals. He can really score goals. And that's what I think makes him even more of a threat, is you take away a passing lane, then now you're being exposed to a shot that he can pick a corner, he can place the shot. And then if you try to take away the shot, then now he's got multiple options to make plays. I think as far as watching his game grow, when I was going through the process with Spokane of being hired, that was during their playoffs with Kamloops. So Berkeley came up as a 15-year-old. So I got to watch Berkeley during that playoff run, and you could just see right away, like, this was a pretty special player, even at 15, what he was able to do. And then come in full time at 16. We were, a team kind of in transition. So, we didn't have a strong season that year. It was just kind of about learning the league, everything like that. To see his game elevate from a 16-year-old season to his draft year and a 17-year-old season to where he is where he just finished as an 18-year-old. He just keeps learning the game, like understanding the whole game. He has great skill offensively. This year really saw a lot of his game mature away from the puck. Again, we talk about being coachable. I think having a coach like Brad Lauer, who, I think was really able to instill a lot of stuff within Berkeley about understanding that what to expect at the pro level as early as this year. If he's going to play for Seattle full time, what to expect. And Berkeley was great with that. Like, Berkeley wants to be the best player. He wants to be a well-rounded player. So, he's open to all of that. And so we saw a lot of strides in his game. So that's what I've seen over my time in the 3 years. Certainly also this year, he was our captain. So having that experience as well of being a leader of a team, and he's had a lot of experience in hockey, even the international experience. I think all of that is just really going to help Berkeley as he transitions into an NHL player. And the thing I really like about Berkeley too is away from the game. He's a quality person, very caring individual, cares about the organization, cares about his teammates, cares about his family. He's just a really good person too. So to have that combination of a great player and a quality human being, it's pretty exciting. And we're fortunate to have had Berkeley for as long as we have, and we'll see what this year brings for him to see where he's at. Obviously, he can still come back to us, but I know his focus is to play for Seattle, and if he's able to do that and make that, then we're excited for Berkeley.
Yeah, you kind of touched on my next question, which was, what impresses you about him away from the ice? You mentioned him being captain, and I know now former head of Kraken player development Jeff Tambellini was always raving about his off-ice intangibles, and it sounds like you are as well there. So I guess I'll just kind of go into the next question, which is kind of about that relationship. When you do have a player like Berkeley Catton, who has been drafted by an NHL team, is that something that you're ever in contact with the NHL team about, or is that something that's more just kind of they talk to their player and you're, kind of out of not necessarily out of the loop, but you're a little bit removed from any conversations there? Or is it something where you would be talking to, assistant general managers or heads of player development for an NHL squad when you do have a drafted player on your team?
Yeah, I know, like last year, spent a lot of time with Jeff Tambellini. He was probably in Spokane 6-7 times throughout the year. There were a few times where I was on the road. If we're in Seattle or Everett, he was there as well. So I probably saw him a total of about 10 times throughout the season. But Jeff was tremendous, a real good communicator. But as far as my communication with Seattle, for the most part, it would be with Jeff or with their player development staff. They have other people within the player development that I would connect with as well, but Jeff was probably the primary contact, and he was really good. So I found over the years that the NHL teams are pretty good with that communication with me, anyways. Whether it's player development, their assistant GM. Even their scouts, the scouts are still invested with that player too, because anytime, much like my year with Philadelphia, anytime I was at a game that maybe one of Philadelphia's prospects was playing, I'd have to do reports, and I'd always try to make sure just to connect with that player afterwards as well. So, before games in the media room, I see the scouts, and if there was certainly one with Seattle or anybody affiliated with Seattle, I'd make sure to spend some time with them. They'd have questions. They'd want to know how Berkeley's doing, certainly on the ice, but off the ice, his training, everything like that. They just want to make sure everything's going good, and everything was always positive. But just having that line of communication, I think, is good for everybody, for the player, for us, and for Seattle.
Yeah, awesome to hear it. And then last question, just looking ahead to this upcoming season for the Chiefs. I know you and I were talking before we started the interview. You're very excited about the number of players you have coming back. I know, preseason starts for you guys the beginning of September. I'm sure training camp is just around the corner for you. Looking ahead to this upcoming season, how are you feeling about it? What excites you about this team? And yeah, how much are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, no, we're excited. I mean, I think you're always excited going into the season. It's new. The players coming back, the new players coming in. There's always that excitement. Again, we were one of the younger teams in the league last year. Obviously, we had a very strong season. We can return up to 16 players from last year's team, which is quite good. And for those players to have all that experience, especially 20 playoff games of experience, I think is really going to help our group going forward. The one thing I don't think many people know, Dylan, and I talk about it, I mentioned it to our staff, and I also mentioned it to our players in our exit meetings. But last year we had a whole new staff. So we had 3 new coaches, we had a new equipment manager, and a new athletic therapist. So the 5 people on the bench were all new. So it was, and not any of them really had a relationship before. So all 5 individuals were getting to know each other. So I give a lot of credit to our staff, but I also give a lot of credit to our players, because as players, hockey's hockey, so to speak, but you're still getting used to new personalities, new delivery, new, systems might be a little bit of adjustment, but guys can adapt to that. But the fact that our players and our staff are able to come together all new, so to speak, and to have the type of season that we have, I was really happy about that, because that's not easy. But the staff and the players did a good job. So now going forward, now everybody kind of knows each other, has that comfort level. Our players know what to expect. Our staff understands our players, understands their personality, stuff like that. So we're pretty excited about the group that we have going forward. We certainly graduate. We graduate up to 7 players that were big contributors to our team, leadership wise, everything. So it's never easy to lose those players, but that's part of junior hockey, and that's part of our job to help prepare them for the next level. But likewise, it's our job to prepare our players that are coming back, the young players, and then the players coming in. So we're quite excited with the group that we have coming back, and the potential of what they can do. But at the end of the day, they have to execute that. But I believe that they'll be able to do that. So we're excited. I mean, this Thursday we'll be 2 weeks away from our first ice session from this Thursday. So.
Yeah, no, it is really exciting, and I'm definitely excited to see the team. And yes, that cohesion and chemistry, not just for the players and having that many players potentially returning, but yes, amongst the coaching staff, amongst the rest of the staff and the organization, it does so much, something that the Kraken are kind of searching for right now, as they're on their second new staff in as many off seasons. So I know how important that can be. Really looking forward to watching the team this year, looking forward to hopefully being able to talk to you later on in the season as well. I think that would be a lot of fun. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview and telling me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that, Dylan. Great to catch up with you, and I appreciate you the interest there, obviously with Berkeley, but also with the Spokane Chiefs, and appreciate that.
All right, and there you have it again. One more big thank you to Spokane Chiefs general manager Matt Bardsley for taking the time to do that interview with me. Again, it was great to catch up with him. We had a great conversation around that. I'm looking forward to catching up with him. Hopefully here shortly during the kind of the WHL preseason. Going to be up in Everett later this week. I'm going to try to get up there and talk with him and stuff. But yeah, just huge shout out to him for taking the time for doing that, and lots of cool, interesting stuff in there too. RJ, the big one for me is the fact that they have all the next 3 years worth of their team just kind of like mapped out, and they've just got that on a board in his office. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that fans might not really think about when you're looking at one particular trade or move or watching a game. But yeah, the next 3 years are mapped out, and every move that you make affects things, not just this year, not just next year, 3 years down the line. And really, I think it's only 3 years, because that's just about as far as you actually can
Yeah.
predict out in juniors. Otherwise, it's just guys, kids who
Yes.
are not even drafted to you
Right.
yet. But it shows the level of thought that goes into all of that.
Yeah, you start getting into undrafted 13-year-old. It's like, okay, just unknown 13-year-old. So yeah, it was really cool to hear his process for that, and then of course to hear all the great stuff about Berkeley Catton. It's stuff that's not super surprising to you and I, because we've had the opportunity to interact with him on several occasions. But he really is that guy, right? He's a guy who cares immensely about this sport, about making himself a better player, and he really does want to go out there and put that work in and put that effort in into being the best player possible. And I can't wait to see that, come to fruition for him as an NHL player with the Seattle Kraken.
Yeah, and it all starts this month.
Yeah, it does. So can't wait for that. Again, looking forward to it. Hopefully we'll have some stuff to talk about around training camp and everything here really soon for everybody. Otherwise, keep your eyes out for the third jersey reveal later this week. And one more time, huge shout out to Rico Tessendor for sponsoring the podcast, Law Offices of Rico Tessendor. While we hope none of you ever need his services, the odds say that at some point someone out there will be involved in an accident, whether on the road, at work, or anywhere in between. And when you are, we hope you call Rico at 425-778-9800 or visit his website, ricotessendor.com, to schedule a free consultation. He's won millions of dollars for his clients and helped thousands of people in the greater Seattle area. And as a fellow member of the ECH community, we know he'll help you too. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you all next time.
Hey everyone, before we go, we just wanted to give a quick shout out to all of our awesome patrons over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey, especially our Terror of the Deep patrons.
Thank you so much for making all this possible. We really appreciate your support.